All right, Amelia, I'm ready for your first tough question.
How did you become interested in space? Was there anyone or anything that inspired you?
When I was a kid, when I was about your age, on TV they were filming the whole space race, and this was the Russians and the Americans fighting each other to see who would get to the moon first. So they were launching rockets almost every month with people doing new things, and eventually the Americans landed first on the moon. That was Mr. Neil Armstrong, down the ladder, onto the surface, walked around. And I saw the whole thing on TV, all the launches leading up to it, all the tests and things. And I was your age when I started watching that, and then 13 when they landed on the moon. And I thought it was fantastic. And from then I said, I want to do that.
What training did you need to do before going on to space, and how long did that take?
Well, the training I did for being an astronaut was lots of things. You had to really understand the shuttle well. It's like like an aeroplane and a rocket and a glider. It's sort of three machines in one machine. It's very, very complicated. So you spent 2 years just studying shuttle. A lot of book work, a lot of simulation tests. And then you practice being a spacewalker, and that's all in a big tank of water. And then we do a lot of flying aeroplanes. And then we had to learn lots and lots and lots about space station because we were building it. So it was a lot of study, just like you get at school, where you study something and then you go do it and see what you learned and see how well you did, then study some more and do it again. So it took me about 6 years from the day I joined up until I first flew in space.
Can you describe your emotions the first time you went into space?
I was very excited. I wasn't scared, not even a little bit. I was very, very excited because I'd been waiting for it for a long time. It was great.
Once you have got into space, how did you spend an average day, if there is such a thing?
Well, an average day for me, because I was a spacewalker, was either doing a spacewalk, which takes all day, getting into your suit, getting purged on oxygen, takes about 4 hours of just sitting in your suit before you're ready to go out the door. Then a spacewalk was about 7.5 hours, 8 hours long. Then you come back in and have to clean everything up. So that would be a long, 15-hour day doing a spacewalk. And on the days that I wasn't doing a spacewalk, you get sort of like do a spacewalk on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then so Tuesday and Thursday you do other things. You mainly get ready for the next spacewalk, get all the tools and equipment and machinery together for the next one. So it's hard work, all day, every day, maybe 15, 16 hours a day.
Can you describe some of the missions you have been on? What was your favourite mission and why?
Oh, well, I did 3 missions, and they were all to the International Space Station, and they were all to do with either building it or repairing it. And they're all fun in their different ways, but the middle mission for me was the best because the spacewalks were the most fun. So I liked it a lot.
What is the most beautiful sight you ever experienced in space, and how did it make you feel?
Let's see. I think the most beautiful thing you ever see is watching sunrise over the Earth, because it's all black, and then you see a little thin blue line just cracking, in blackness. You see a thin blue line, and then you see the sun come up, and because it's going so fast, the sun comes up really fast. So if this is the horizon, the sun comes up like this. You see it rising. It's a white sun in a black sky. It looks very different from it does down here, and it moves fast. Beautiful.
Have you ever seen anything strange in your journeys into space?
What do you mean by strange, Amelia? I've seen some strange food. Now, have I ever seen anything like an alien? No. None of us have actually seen aliens, unfortunately. It'd be very exciting if we did. The strange things you see in space are the way things float around. Another strange thing is if you're outside in a spacesuit, you're doing a spacewalk, and you have a metal object and you hit another metal object, like you hit something with a hammer, no sound, because there's no air. You don't hear anything. It's like watching a silent movie.
What do your children think about having an astronaut for a father? Do you think they all want to be astronauts?
Well, both my children are grown up, and I was an astronaut for 15 years while they were growing up, and they think it's old hat. They're not interested. They're doing completely different things. My daughter likes advertising and that kind of stuff, and my son is an engineer, but he likes ships. He doesn't like airplanes or spacecraft. So they both went off to do different things. They must have thought that my job was rubbish.
We all have a lot of gadgets around the home. What is the most favourite gadget that you took into space?
Most favourite gadget that I took into space? I'm not kidding. The thing that I liked most was a piece of equipment. It's called the pistol grip tool. It's like a big electric drill, except you put things on the end to help you do up bolts and undo bolts. You go vrrr, and when you're doing a spacewalk, that's how you bolt things together. With this big sort of, looks like a big ray gun. You just plug it on there and do up the bolts.
Do you think there is life on other planets?
I'm positive there's life on other planets, but we haven't found it yet. There may not be life on any planet or moon of a planet in the solar system. Probably not, except for us. But I'm sure we'll find worlds around other stars that have life on them one day. So that's something for you to look forward to. But heaven knows what it'll look like. I mean, it won't look like us, that's for sure. The reason we look like we do is because of the way we've evolved lots of little tricks and turns so that we ended up looking the way we do. But life on other planets will probably look very different, which makes it even more exciting.
Do you enjoy your job?
Do I enjoy my job? Yes, I do, very much. I've enjoyed all my jobs. I was a scientist for about 13 years, and that was great fun because when you're a scientist, you get up every day and you sort of have an idea about what you want to do, but you get to the office or you get to the laboratory and then it turns out a little bit different. So every day something new. It was not really like working at all. Then I was an astronaut, and you know what that's like. That's a lot of fun. And now I'm back to being a sort of scientist again. It's fun again.
How did you control your nerves in space?
You know, to be honest, we're all too busy and all too interested in what we're doing to be nervous. You know, never really got nervous in space. Got tired sometimes, but didn't get nervous.
What was it like inside the space shuttle speeding through Earth's atmosphere during landing? Were you relieved to be back on Earth?
The business of leaving space and getting back to Earth, that's called re-entry or entry in a spacecraft, is a little dangerous because you're going very fast through the atmosphere, and you're going so fast that the air is burning on the outside of the spacecraft, so it's red hot out there, 3,000 degrees, really hot. So, you know, you have to watch what you're doing a little bit when you're coming back. When you get back, it's nice to see all your friends and family.
How long does it take to become a fully trained astronaut?
Takes about somewhere between 4 and 6 years, I'd say. But don't forget, you have to do something else first before you become an astronaut.
What surprised you the most about being in space?
I think the feeling of when you're floating in space, it does feel odd. I mean, it's a little bit unnatural to just hang in the middle of a room, don't you think? And to just put something in the air and it stays there, it doesn't fall, it doesn't float. So that takes some getting used to. I thought I'd understand it and get used to it quickly, but it took a bit longer than I thought.
Mars or Milky Way, which chocolate bar do you like best?
You asked me that already, and my answer's still the same. Cadbury's Dairy Flake, and where's mine?
What questions would you like to be asked about space and never have been?
And never have been. I think I've been asked almost every question. Nobody asked me if I'd like to travel to another star, and my answer would be absolutely. Even if it took a long time, I'd like to go to another star and see another set of planets. I think that'd be great fun.
What was the hardest task in your training?
For me, everybody finds that they find, some people are completely brilliant and they do everything perfectly well, but most of us, we do some things very well and then do other things not so well. And for me, the hardest thing was learning robotics, learning how to drive the big arm. I eventually got the hang of it, but it took me quite a long time.
What medical tests do astronauts have to go through to be able to fly?
Lots and lots and lots. They're worried about things like your heart and your lungs, and these are good reasons for not smoking ever, okay, because that's not good for your health. Okay. And you've got to be fairly fit, and you shouldn't drink too much, and things like that. So they check on all those things.
What did it feel like to walk in space?
That feels wonderful. You can just run around on the outside of the spacecraft. Usually they've got handholds. They've got these big rails on the outside that you can use to pull yourself around with your hands. Funny, when you're in space, you walk with your hands and you sometimes carry things with your feet. So it's the other way around from normal. Okay? So you could hold a box between your feet and then use your hands to go on the handrails.
Who are your heroes and why?
My role model, the person I looked up to the most and still sort of do, was Neil Armstrong. He was the first man on the moon, but he used to come back and talk to us, young astronauts, as we were then, a lot, and help us out a little bit. And he was, even though he was the first person to ever stand on another world, he was always modest, quiet, polite, just a nice, nice man, and very, very smart.
Is it true that helmet visors are made of solid gold?
Helmet visors they're not made of solid gold. They're made of clear plastic, polycarbonate. It's a really tough plastic. You could hit it with a hammer and it wouldn't break. And it has a very, very thin film of gold on it. It's just enough to reflect the light, like sunglasses, but thin enough so that you can see through it. So the gold visor, you pull that down during daytime so that you don't get blinded by the sun because it's very bright up there. It's like having a gigantic pair of sunglasses on. Not solid gold, but worth a lot of money anyway. All right.
What did your family and friends say when you first told them you wanted to be an astronaut?
I think they thought it was pretty impractical as an idea. So for a long time I just kind of had it as a deep interest and a sort of dream of something I would just love to do. But I had space posters all over my bedroom, rockets blasting off and all the rest of it. And I bought the Airfix 48-inch scale model of the Saturn V, and built that thing and painted it properly. And then a whole lot of books. So the interest, I never lost the interest in what it was about and how it was done. I always had the hope that somehow it'd work out.
For the budding astronauts out there in schools, what would you advise them to do now in terms of education choices and extracurricular activities?
Well, that's easy. Really, the whole astronaut business, it's for people who understand science and technology and can apply it. So, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, those are the things, the STEM subjects, absolutely core. So at school, that's the most important thing. Studies first. Understand what you're doing. Understand the subjects. So it starts at school. It really does.
Most commutes to work are less than an hour, but yours was clearly different from the norm. Can you tell us, did you like travelling to space on the shuttle, and has the experience of leaving the planet changed your outlook on life? If so, how?
Did I like leaving the planet in the shuttle? Very much so. It was a very exciting business. The whole business of launch is 8 minutes 20 seconds. That's all it takes.
Zero gravity.
Yep, that's right. So from getting off the pad to reaching your target velocity, which is 5 miles a second, that's 17,500 miles an hour, which is pretty fast, takes 8.5 minutes or less than. And then you're in 0 G and flying along, 130 miles above the atmosphere. So that's exciting. I mean, that does get your attention. What was the next one?
has being in space changed your outlook on life?
Hasn't changed my outlook on life, but I'll tell you, it has changed my outlook on the planet. You know, I'm a lot fonder of the planet than I was. It's very small. This place where we live, it's much smaller than you think, and there's much less atmosphere than you think. From here to Woking, going straight up, that's as thick as the atmosphere is. There's really not much there. So I'm much more inclined to be careful with my little planet. I'm fond of it.
Did you experience any problems or minor emergencies when travelling to or from space?
You know, the shuttle's the most complicated machine ever made. It's got 3 million parts. So the chances of them all working perfectly all the time is almost zero, right? So something's always going wrong with the shuttle, and you're always trying to fix it on the way up and on the way back. We all had all kinds of little glitches. Same with space station, there's always something going wrong. Generally with the packages that are outside the space station, so that means that somebody has to get on a spacesuit and go out and swap out the broken part for a new part. So that happens, and it happened when I was up there too.
We've had quite a few questions about going outside the space shuttle, such as how long does it take you to get your spacesuit on before an EVA? How hot or cold is it inside the spacesuit? And what does it feel like being outside the spacecraft?
All right, so how long does it take to get your spacesuit ready? Yeah. Generally you spend about the evening of the previous day getting your spacesuit together and all the tools, and then you get up really early the next morning and start breathing pure oxygen, because when you go outside in your spacesuit you're breathing pure oxygen. Yeah, you don't want to be smoking inside your spacesuit, you'll explode. So getting into the spacesuit is a bit of a wriggle and a squirm, but once you're in it's very comfortable. When you're outside, it's good. It's, you have air conditioning, a fan, and as long as you don't overwork and start sweating, you're very comfortable. Not too hot, not too cold.
Okay. And what does it feel like being outside the spacecraft now?
Well, it's an odd feeling because you're very comfortable in the suit. You're just barely touching all of the suit on the inside of it. You're not like when you're training in the pool, you know, down in the lowest point of the suit. So you're floating in the middle of your suit, very comfortable. The gloves are a perfect fit. They made sure of that. And you can actually find out you can get a lot more done more easily than you thought you could. So it was kind of a revelation to me how easy it was to do some things in space.
Eating, sleeping and washing is something we take for granted on Earth and can be difficult for us to imagine in zero gravity. Can you tell us about them?
Well, they tried early on in both the Russian program and the American program. They experimented with showers, you know, so that people could wash themselves really thoroughly in space. So think about the problem with that. You know, the water droplets just sort of fly around and you start inhaling them and drowning. So they tried putting big fans in the floor of the shower so that the water gets sucked into the floor. Didn't work. Still had water flying around. A Russian who test drove this shower in space nearly drowned, and he said, I'm never doing that again. I met him actually, and he was really said, no way. So the way you wash yourself in space is you just get a washcloth or a flannel, hot water, wash yourself off, then get a fresh water one, no soap, and clean yourself off, and that's it. So the guys who are up there for 6 months, they dream about having showers and baths, but they don't. They don't get to do one. Eating's pretty straightforward. Just about everything you can eat here, you can eat there. But we have to be sure the food's completely safe, you know, so none of us will get sick because we're a long way from a hospital. So generally speaking, we eat meals ready to eat, or MREs. They're military rations, and you know, they have a certain sameness to them after a while. So we take a bottle of Tabasco sauce or some mustard to pep things up.
Thinking about the future now, in terms of human physiology, do you think it would be possible to send people to Mars, and if the engine technology existed, to nearby stars?
Wow. Sending people to Mars, the technology of getting people to Mars and back is already around. You know, it would take a lot of money to do it, but the propulsion technology is all there. The showstopper of getting to Mars is that once you get outside the Earth's magnetic field a long way away from Earth, there's a lot of radiation. And we don't really know how to deal with that or how dangerous it is even. We just know that it's much higher loads than we'd comfortably expose anybody to on Earth. So that's a problem. We've got to solve that. And we don't know how to do that yet. Going to stars, that's a long, long way away. I think we need a completely new kind of technology that none of us have even thought of to get a ship that would go fast enough to even get there in a couple of 100 years. And so that's assuming we can find a way to freeze people or suspend them somehow, which will, you know, I think once we learn how to do that and get a good enough drive, people will head for the stars. Maybe, I don't know, a couple of 100 years from now. I'm hoping someone's going to prove me wrong and do it next week.
If you were the first man to land on Mars, what would be your first words?
I'm not telling you because then it wouldn't be a surprise. I'd say, I can't believe I'm on Mars because I'm 90 years old. No, because no, I'm just kidding. I think it'll be another 20, 30 years before we get somebody on Mars, I think. So I'll be about, yeah, I'll be about 80, I'll be about 90 years old. But no, I think I'll leave that for the person who gets to do it. I think it'd be historically very significant, don't you?
Do you ever think we will build a space station on the moon? Can you tell us why you think we haven't built one already?
Actually, the moon's a tough place to live because if you go sort of on the middle of the moon somewhere, your day length is 14 days in the light and then 14 days in the dark, right? Because the moon's locked to the Earth. So it's really, really hot during the daytime. And it's very, very, very cold in the nighttime. So it's tough on equipment and suits and habitats and everything. It's much harder than living on Mars, believe it or not, to build a base on the moon. So, you know, the debate has gone this way and that way. People say, let's go and build a base on the moon because it's 2.5 days away. People can get home if something goes wrong. And then other people said, yeah, but it doesn't really help us learn much in terms of living on Mars, which is where we really want to go. And in fact, it would be actually easier to live on Mars once you got there. So the debate continues.
559 hours is a long time in space. How does that affect your bone density and other important physiological processes?
That's actually too short to really affect your bone density. Not significant. People are up there for 6 months, start to lose calcium from their bones, but we found that if they do really hard exercise for a couple of hours a day while they're on orbit, that actually helps counter it. And so the whole bone density problem, while not completely solved, is almost solved, I think. There's a whole lot of other little problems, but they're small. The big problem would be, once you get away from Earth, is that the radiation that we talked about earlier. That's the big problem. We've yet to deal with that.
What's been your most worrying moment in space?
Most worrying moment in space? Wow, that's a good question. I think when we thought we weren't going to be allowed to go for a spacewalk because we had some problems with a suit. I thought we weren't going to actually going to get to go out, and I was trying to figure out how we could get the rest of all our tasks done. And so that was a sort of bad half hour. Then they changed their minds. We went anyway.
Have you ever been unwell in space, and how were you treated?
Felt a little ill once, and that's quite normal for people who go to space the first time they go there. I feel a little queasy. Didn't throw up or anything, but just didn't feel too well. And then, you know, had something to eat and had a nap, and I felt much better. So, the natural cure. Felt much better.
What are your thoughts and feelings about NASA shutting down the Space Shuttle program?
Well, the shuttle has been flying for about 30 years, and really it was time to retire the vehicle. We could have kept flying them for longer, but I think it was time to retire that particular kind of technology. It's fairly high risk. and move to something safer. So that's what we're doing.
Okay.
And hopefully cheaper.
What are you moving to?
We're going to have a rocket called Orion.
Yeah.
And that should be out the next 3 or 4 years. And maybe we'll have some commercial crew vehicles as well.
Cool.
Yeah, which hopefully will be cheaper and more and safer.